This is the brand new Sony ZV-1F, and you might be thinking it's some sort of upgraded version of the ZV-1, something that sits in between it and the ZV-E10, but that's not the case because the whole rationale behind this camera is really to make an entry-level, cheap, inexpensive, lightweight camera that appeals to those who are using cell phones to capture video content. So they want to move from this sort of image on a cell phone, this is last year's iPhone, to a camera. So in this video, I'm going to compare this new camera to last year's iPhone because that's really all I have.
First, let's take a tour around this little thing. The size is compact, very light at 256 grams, the same size as the ZV-1, just slimmer. On top, there is a cold shoe. That's right, no connections here. This is a budget camera after all. It has the same microphones as what you get on the ZV-1 and the E10, an on-off button here, quick mode switch button, record button, shutter button with a zoom rocker, and a custom one background defocus button. On the back, there is a simple interface, menu, function, play, trash, and the round toggle buttons, a flip-out fully articulating screen, which is a necessity for vlogging. This is a touchscreen with the new Sony menu structure, which is cleaner and nicer. Because this camera is designed to appeal to people using phones for video, there are touchscreen buttons that quickly change settings. It makes the camera very simple to use. There are fewer settings to mess with, but everything you would ever need to vlog is there. On this side, there is nothing. On the other side, there are three little flaps, microphone jack, USB-C port, and micro HDMI. On the bottom, the same little battery as the ZV-1, which is the BX1 style, and one SD card slot. Finally, around the front, there is not much of a grip and a Zeiss lens. This is a 7.6mm f2 fixed focal length lens, ultra compact, designed to give you that 20mm full frame equivalent focal length. This is the part that makes the camera better than the ZV-1, which after stabilization never seemed quite wide enough for arm's length vlogging. The overall build of this camera is budget. It's plastic throughout, it feels light, a bit slippery because of the minimal texture on the finish, and there's not much of a grip to hold it all. I think it was designed with the idea that people are going to be using some sort of handheld tripod with it. Inside, there is a 20.1 megapixel 1-inch CMOS sensor, 425 contrast-only detection autofocus points, human eye AF for photo and video, and animal eye AF for photo. No real-time tracking though. As for stabilization, no IBIS, no optical stabilization, but there is electronic active mode stabilization. The camera shoots up to 16 frames per second stills, 4K video with S-Log 2 and 3 and HLG, slow and quick mode, and it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So based on specs, if you were expecting some sort of 1-inch version of the Sony FX3, you will be disappointed. But the real question is this camera better than vlogging with your iPhone? How does the video quality, the audio quality, the stabilization, the overall picture look in comparison? So naturally, I had my wife go out and do a side-by-side comparison vlog. And the results when you compare the front-facing camera on the iPhone 13 mini and this new ZV-1F are pretty predictable. The 1-inch sensor does a good job exposing, colors are great, and the video does look better in my eyes. This is especially amplified if you get into any sort of low-light situation where you can quickly see the limitations of the front-facing camera. Stabilization looks similar here. I would give the edge to the iPhone still, but for coming straight out of the camera handheld with no post-processing, the active stabilization does a good job. I will say this stabilization does come at the cost of a noticeable crop. And so for most people, that comparison is enough because most people who are vlogging are using the front-facing camera on their phones just to make sure that they're composing the shot correctly. And I would say this is significantly better. But what happens when you switch to using the rear-facing camera on your iPhone and you compare it to this new camera? Here, the iPhone camera looks much better than before. Stabilization is better on the iPhone again, and the colors and exposure I'll leave you to decide. I do wish there was more of an improvement with the new ZV-1F, but Apple has spent a lot of time on their camera lenses. They seem to get updated every single year, and beyond that, it's the digital processing that happens in the background that is astonishing. The iPhone is doing this with a significantly smaller sensor. Here is the audio quality at arm's length away on my iPhone 13 mini. And here is the audio coming out of the new Sony ZV-1F. So in summary, this is a small, simple to use camera that is a noticeable improvement for vlogging if you are using your front-facing camera. Stabilization is slightly worse than what you get on an iPhone. Is all of this enough to entice someone to move to a camera such as this from an iPhone? I don't know. I will say for those who have used an APS-C sensor or full frame, moving down to a 1-inch sensor is tough. You notice the low light performance immediately. That being said, to imitate this look on an APS-C censored camera, you'd be looking at buying an A6100, the Viltrox 13mm f1.4, and some sort of cheap gimbal because that setup wouldn't have any sort of stabilization built in. So in total, it's about $1,200 to $1,300 worth of gear, and you get a bigger, much bulkier, much more difficult setup to use than what you get here, which is very compact, lightweight. So at less than half the price, this ZV-1F is a good deal for what it does. It's cheaper than a new iPhone as well, so I think it will sell. It's going to be a popular entry-level vlogging option, and Sony can easily put it on sale for $450 or even $399 to sell a boatload more of them. And this is good for the entire Sony mirrorless system, as this will move more people into using Sony cameras, and they may eventually upgrade to higher-end models. So that is going to be my review of this new camera from Sony. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you learned something. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section below. I'll leave a link to this camera down in the description, so check that out if you are interested in picking one of these up and pre-ordering it. And as always, thank you so much for all of your comments, all of your likes, and your support. Stay tuned for more. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
What's up, everybody? So today we are in Arizona with my family, and this is my cousin's house. It's so beautiful, and I'm so excited because I love it. I want one, and it's just so nice because I just feel like she has 4 bedrooms. It's set up perfectly for how I would want it, because Arthur would have an office, and then I would have this room behind me, which is so cute. And this front door is amazing. I love it because look how big it is. It's like huge, so it's really nice. But I'll take you outside and I'll show you the pool. The pool is amazing and the landscape is so pretty. Maybe I would move here, but maybe I wouldn't because it gets really hot. It's like 110 degrees in the summer or higher, and that's a little too hot for me. Texas is okay, but this is just a little too hot for me. I don't know, but the colors are nice and I love it. And there are mountains everywhere because look, you can see it behind me up here.